Hey guys, so I'm Ryan Swearingen. I'm the managing editor of the blog network at Magnet Media. This is our first Google Hangout. I'm joined here with Anwar Warner, who's right over here. Anwar, tell us a little about yourself. What's your title over Magnet?
So I'm Anwar Warner. I am a senior producer for interactive and social. So I essentially am the Ryan of for our clients, essentially.
Gotcha. And then we've also got Brandan Jones. Hi, Brandon. Tell us a little about yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm just a associate producer at Magnet Media, and I primarily will be dealing with video producing things.
Nice. Cool. Well, basically, we wanted to just kind of we got into a bit of a discussion about Google Plus pages for brands and for businesses, and kind of ended up debating sort of the merits and some of the challenges and stuff going back and forth. And we kind of just figured it'd be cool to do it right on a Hangout and talk about it that way, put it up. Um,
Hey,
so,
Ryan,
yeah,
sorry to cut you off. Can you do hangouts on Facebook?
can I do what?
You do a hangout on Facebook,
Not that I know of. I know that now they've got Skype integrated, right? Like there is video
right?
chat. I haven't tried it yet. Have either of you guys tried it?
I haven't.
I don't.
No, I think yeah, it's pretty much just a one-on-one type of thing as far as I'm aware of it. I don't think it's kind of meant to.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of just like an alternative to like a FaceTime type thing.
Right. That's my
Got it.
that's my impression too. I should look into it a little bit more, but I don't think anyone else has quite the Hangout, the full like up to 10 people functionality. I think this is it, which is pretty unique. I mean, I think maybe we should just start with that. I mean, that's definitely seems to be sort of one of the things that's setting Google Plus apart in general, but also for pages. I mean, already, the big one that was real high profile was the Muppets did a Hangout like the first week of launch, where they had Jason Segel on, they had the Muppets on, and it was pretty good turnout. And that is kind of an interesting way for a brand to connect with their customers directly. I know Tyra Banks did one last week for her new book. I think it's called Model Land. I haven't looked back to see how well it was received, but I assume it had a pretty good turnout. So I mean, that in itself is an interesting feature. And what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of Hangouts primarily sort of from a customer service standpoint or even a how-to standpoint, because I think that a lot of times people will deal with the service and they'll have an issue with it, and they'll send an email or they'll try to tweet about it or something of that nature. But I think if they're able to get quick access to actually kind of an in-person representative of the company who can basically solve that issue, whether it's, oh, try this, or kind of maybe even take them into their own screen capture type of thing. I think it's a really it's kind of a safe face way to really just circumvent all the usual means of answering the question.
Right. Totally.
I think customer service is definitely one of the strong points for Google Plus as far as using a Hangout. The other thing is um, just this rich, unique experience of being able to have up to 10 people in a Hangout together. So, I mean, think of all the creative ways a brand can use a Google Plus Hangout.
Right.
So if you can run a contest where the winners are able to hang out with, whether it's someone from a film, one of their favorite artists. Recently, Will I Am had a hangout with 9 other people before
Right.
and after a concert that he had, and that was extremely well received. It was broadcast live, I think via YouTube,
Right.
and I mean that is one of the ways that Google Plus is quite revolutionary when it comes to social real time interaction.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, just the fact. I mean, right now, Brandon and I are both on laptops, I assume, or on computers, and where you're talking on your phone right now. So I mean,
Right.
that like you could. I mean, I'm doing it through the Magnet account, but if you were on the brand account, I mean, you could literally like do this anywhere you could get on Wi-Fi, or I don't know if it works on 3G. I don't know, but probably to some extent. But I mean, if say there was a customer service issue, or say at an event like backstage at a conference or a concert, whatever, you could literally jump on your phone and flip it around and show the audience or whatever, and be showing that to your to your clients, your customers, which is pretty cool.
Right.
With the Hangouts, Ryan, do you know if because I noticed when we were kind of setting this up that you invited us, but is there a way that for instance, if it was kind of more of a celebrity personality and a lot of people were trying to get into the Hangout, do you know if there's a queuing system for that so they can kind of see
Right.
you're the ninth person in line kind of thing, or
That's a good question. I know. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
No.
I know that there is a queue system. I'm just not certain
Okay.
how it works.
yeah.
Right. That would make sense. I mean, they're going to have a big turnout. They're going to be sitting there kind of in line. I know with some of these big ones like the will.i.am and the Muppets and all that, they kind of worked specifically directly with Google to work it out so that they had a larger crowd than 10 at a time as well, I think.
Gotcha.
And obviously, like with will.i.am, he's got an entire crowd on one camera. So, but yeah, they'd have to. I would assume they'd have to have some queue system. I'll look into that, see if I can find a link that I can drop in with this, because that's an interesting point. So yeah, Hangouts are definitely a cool thing. It's pretty unique, and it'll be interesting to see how more brands start coming up with interesting ideas of how to use it. As well as, it's certainly just a productivity tool. I mean, doing things like this, I mean, even just as a free opportunity for a brand to record, say a quick conversation like this, say they get their entire team together, or 10 of them, I guess, in this case, and, talk about a program, put it up online like we're going to do with this. I mean, that's certainly a handy way to do it without having to, and sort of as a proof of concept, like we're doing.
Yeah.
Brandan, you had some other thoughts. I know, one of your criticisms is you felt like, while there's some cool features like this, you felt, if I understood right, that it just felt a little like half-baked. It maybe wasn't, they'd left out a lot of features, or maybe they were trying to swing too broadly and try and sort of be all things to everyone like Facebook. Do you have any thoughts about that? Just kind of what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, with Hangouts and SEO stuff that we'll kind of get to in a minute, it feels like the Google Plus pages and such. They launched, and there are a lot of things that you can do as a brand with it. But sort of the crux of my argument was that if you have a program that's kind of brand new or a service that's brand new, and you're trying to enter an already crowded marketplace, it has to really kind of set itself apart. Especially if it's lacking a couple things from the beginning. And so, something that we had spoken about before was, something like if you had, like the iPhone, for instance, when it first launched, it didn't have really, really basic things, like you couldn't copy and paste from the beginning, it didn't have multitasking from the beginning, but the hardware was something so beyond what was out there that people were kind of willing to allow it to catch up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought with Google Pages, it has these nice features and everything to it, but there's nothing that would kind of, as the article that I wrote, to incite brand betrayal kind of thing. Like if you're already very adamant and very comfortable with Facebook pages, there are things that are on Google Plus pages that are different and kind of curious enough for you to maybe try them out, but nothing that I would say, in my opinion, that would kind of make you jump ship completely.
Right. Well, and I wonder if they even are expecting people to necessarily jump ship, or if they are hoping or are hopefully trying to just kind of complement. Like, I don't know if they. Obviously they would love to have as much market share as possible, but I wonder if they're hoping that they can just provide something different enough without just having it all become. Without everyone just sort of plugging in all their same accounts and bringing in the same feed from Twitter and the same feed from Facebook. But, Facebook and Twitter have sort of managed to coexist. However, with Google Plus, sort of some of the opportunities, but maybe this would be one of your criticisms, is that it does seem to be kind of in a different way. I think it's doing a unique thing. However, it's kind of bringing in, I think Anwar said this the other day, sort of the best of both. It's kind of half Twitter, it's kind of half Facebook, but still sort of its own thing.
Yeah.
You were talking about that, Anwar. Did you have any thoughts about that?
I did. I think, Brandan, to your point, that essentially what Google Plus does is, there are a lot of things that may have been left out at the initial, the first invites that were sent out. However, I do think that the software is unique enough for I wouldn't say brand betrayal because I'm not necessarily certain that that's what Google is after. I mean, one doesn't have to only be on Facebook
Right.
to make an impact. So
Right.
between the circles, which we haven't gotten to yet, so
Yeah.
I'll refrain from getting to the circles in a minute. But I mean, the Hangout feature is unique enough where I think it will spark enough interest and engagement with whether it's between brand and consumer or just friends, what have you. So I definitely think that the software is unique enough. I guess this also is a good enough time to segue into
Yeah.
circles. I guess the benefit of circles is, if we're looking at it from a brand perspective, is if I know that, let's say I'm an entertainment company and I put out several different film properties. Well, if I know that there are certain uh, consumers who are fans of movie X, then I can push content to them that's relevant to
Right.
that movie and maybe not movie Y, which they really didn't like. Also, you can. I'm not certain how the privacy works on Google Plus quite yet. But if I know that a lot of my fans are in New York,
Hmm.
I don't want to push them national content when I know that I can push local content
Yeah.
through them. So in that way, it's definitely much more unique than Facebook or Twitter. So I
Right.
definitely do think that there's room for it in the market. What we're seeing now with Google Plus is high activation rates, but pretty low engagement. So Google Plus needs to once it irons out some of those kinks that you mentioned, Brandon, then it'll definitely, or it could be a mainstay amongst the different social channels that we have now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the circle thing, like you said, I mean, just it almost gives the brand, I mean, the level of demographic control. I mean, say you want to target just all your male users in Sheboygan or whatever, you can do that, which Facebook will let you do with your ads, but you can't do it with just a
Right.
status update. You can't target an update. And that's an interesting thing. I mean, I don't want to get off topic, but you tweeted at us yesterday about, which I hadn't seen, is this article about Facebook, and I'm sure they'll iron it out. But it's an interesting problem right now, is with sort of the timeline shift and the way they've changed the whole presentation of your newsfeed, where basically they've sort of lowered the priority on brand updates, where it's they're not showing up in your feed as often, or at least for most users it seems. And I think with anything, every time they roll out a new feature, they kind of balance it out somewhere else. So that'll work out. But if some brands start getting concerned with that, they may not jump ship on Facebook, but it's certainly something to be aware of. That might be another reason why they would start using Google Plus even more actively, because they can be sure it will be seen, and they can actually target to who they want it to be seen by.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting. Trying to think what were some of your other points that we wanted to address. Circles is obviously a huge thing, both for brands and for users. And of course, Hangouts we talked about. Those are sort of the two real differentiators, I think.
Well, there are those two, and then search.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Brandon, you mentioned search in your argument, and I mean, I guess the one thing that I want to mention about is Google, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Google Plus. I'm certain that they'll figure out a way, or they are rolling out a way to integrate the I guess whatever one searches on Google and Google Plus.
Yeah.
So I recently read an article where one really cool and interesting and quite effective way that Google could use Google Plus as far as search is concerned is, let's say I look something up. Well, maybe the first things that return aren't necessarily, well, after the sponsored results are ones that my friends have plus one.
Yeah.
I mean, so then I'm getting results from quote unquote trusted endorsements. You know what I'm saying? Like from people who I know and whose I guess opinion I value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it kind of pulls in like I guess the whole Amazon customer reviews, but makes it much more personal kind of thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely going to be the huge sort of special ingredient with them. And there's a piece I put up on the blog a couple weeks back based on the sort of intro to the demonstration, which was the week it launched, by Christian Uslian. I'm probably not saying his name right, but and that was obviously the huge point that he was making, is how they of course have the roadmap to tie it into search, and that's going to be huge. I'm sorry, Brandon, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, sort of, I guess the question that I would kind of pose to you too then is, what sort of worries me is that, you know, when Pages, or rather when Plus rolled out initially, a lot of businesses and everybody kind of wanted to jump in very early, and they kind of wanted to go ahead and sort of have, you know, pages that were on Plus and such, and then those accounts were in effect kind of deleted because they wanted to wait until Pages kind of showed up.
Right.
So I guess I kind of want to ask, like, do you think because there wasn't necessarily a demand for something like an alternative to Facebook, if they would have waited and kind of rolled it all out together with a little bit more, I guess, kind of like ironing out sort of the initial glitches and stuff, do you think that people would have jumped in and stayed in versus the people who might have signed up in the beginning, especially during the Plus phase, and then kind of played around with it, but then lost interest, and maybe even hearing upon Pages haven't quite gone back to it yet?
I don't know.
Well, I think
go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're
I mean,
fine.
as far as engagement goes, I think that the reason that people have activated and haven't really stayed is because the benefits aren't necessarily. I guess it's a little difficult to discern what the benefits are over a Facebook initially. Like, so you hear about Hangouts, and you hear about Circles, but I guess it's a little difficult for people to share their time over something that might seem very similar to another channel that they're using. Twitter is, I would say, very different from Facebook, and for me, it's real timeness, and you know the character count. So you can't put your entire life on it. It's, you know, quick hit. It's microblogging, right? Yeah. So that is, I guess, points of differentiation that are easy to discern for the end user. Whereas, you know, something like a Google Plus, it almost feels very similar to a Facebook, where someone may say, well, what's the point of me being on this thing? But once you, I guess, drill down into the benefits of it, then it makes more sense. So right now it's in the early stages, so you have a lot of early adopters on there, and you know, Twitter benefited from having, you know, celebrity endorsements. So, you know, the more celebrity endorsements Google Plus gets early, that'll definitely help it as far as mainstays. And once, I guess, users or consumers see that these celebrities are not only endorsing it but actually using it on an ongoing basis, then you know that's something else. I mean, you think about a Twitter, a lot of the celebrities that have millions, legions of followers, they're on Twitter constantly. Yeah. So that I guess that speaks to, you know, I guess the efficacy of the platform, though. Right. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen some celebrities on Google Plus. It is, in my experience, largely in the tech space, the social media space, sort of those celebrities, not necessarily household names, but there are some. So I mean, they've kind of got that as well. But you're right. It's that right now. It's just sort of, I think a lot of people, users in particular, just kind of haven't quite figured out what it is and what's different about it, and it is going to be a challenge. But I think you know, clearly, I saw something like 60% of brands all have already set up Google Plus pages. Yeah. So I mean, people are jumping on there. I mean, no one wants to miss out a possible opportunity, but they're all sort of, there's a little bit of wait and see. And right now, I think, you know, this was one of Brandon's complaints. I think was that, you know, as everyone, including brands, is it just one more place to put up, you know, the exact same content? Are you just putting the same update in 3 places or 4 places if you got a Tumblr or whatever? And that's always sort of a challenge, and I think there's going to be a lot of that in the beginning, but I think maybe we'll see people start to figure out how they can use each one differently, maybe. Right. I mean, this is, for me, what I call like the is this thing on moment for brands and users, right? Like, you're just trying to, you know, hitting the side of the TV, trying to see how it works, kind of thing. And the more you use it, the more you understand its features. users, right?
Right.
So I feel like that's what Google Plus is experiencing right now, and I feel like once you start to understand its features, you start to be able to, I guess, articulate better, right? So you're able to determine what content needs to go on Google Plus versus what needs to go on Facebook, and
Right.
that the content doesn't necessarily have to be the same.
Right.
So I guess it's reading the instruction manual. I'm like, oh, that's how this thing flies. Okay,
Right.
great.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, and
I
I think
think
it
it'll
really.
largely. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was gonna say like, and I think really, I think the fate of sort of pages is really gonna heavily depend upon the brands to figure out, especially because that's kind of, in a way, the biggest proponents of it now, with kind of Plus having been more of a summer thing and pages being a current thing. Like I feel like brands have sort of been left to figure out, okay, how do I if not doing something as dramatic of making people leave pages, and which I don't think they should do because you already have a fan base of millions for your brand on Facebook, and you're kind of starting out in very, very low, hundreds or even thousands and things. But I think they have to figure out, how do I really maximize these SEO features, or how do I really make Hangouts a thing that,
Mhm.
if even if the conversation begins on Facebook, and Facebook doesn't have this Hangouts feature, how do I then? Oh, okay, well then let's kind of continue to put it on Hangouts. And I think it's just kind of up to brands to figure out, how do I get my fans or followers or consumers to realize that it's not the same thing, like it's
Right.
something different, or it's something complementary to what's already out there.
Yeah, I think we'll see some. It's probably going to work. There, certain brands in certain spaces are going to find that they're going to have some aha moment where they realize, oh, this completely does what we need to do in that space, and it might work better for that, that vertical than another. But I think it is going to take probably some really innovative use of it by some brands, and then others will follow suit because they'll start saying, oh,
Right.
okay, I see what they're doing. That makes sense. I didn't even understand that's how that worked. And it'll start taking off from there probably. But I mean, I definitely don't think, like Anwar said, I think it's definitely sort of the is this thing on moment, and it's probably going to be 6 months. Who knows what it'll even look like a year from now, as far as adoption and usage by the users as well. I definitely don't think we can count it out yet. I mean, I think no one's discounting it, even if it's just out of fear of I know I don't want to miss an opportunity, but I don't think anyone is gonna just completely ignore it at this place and at this point. And if they are, I mean, it's probably a little short-sighted because, like we said, I mean, there's clearly more to come, and I think there's going to be more added value. It's just going to be really interesting to see what that is.
Right. Honestly, and that's where we come in as an interactive agency to
Absolutely.
say to our clients, this, we can use this channel in this way,
Yeah.
and this is how we can, I guess target, our message or communication in this fashion. So that's honestly where we come in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's going to be fun to see how brands are using it, how we start helping brands to use it, and finding new ways to use it that wouldn't have even occurred to anyone, that are going to probably make so much sense for particular brands or particular campaigns that couldn't have been done on one of the other platforms. So that'll be interesting. Um, I think we're probably hitting a pretty good point. Did anyone have any major points that they wanted to leave out as far as either criticisms or other opportunities they feel like we didn't hit on that Google Plus has?
Well, I think that the one thing that I didn't mention, or
Hmm.
that I would like to mention about the search
Yeah.
functionality as far as Plus is concerned is, I believe if you begin your Google search with an @ symbol or plus symbol, as a matter of fact, you're able to search all of the brands that have created pages on Google Plus. So if you put a
Right.
plus sign and then start typing A, then you'll see all of the brands that begin with the letter A who have set up pages on
Right.
Google Plus, which I think is great for search.
Yeah. Well, and I know I didn't even mention this, but Google Connect, which I think is still sort of being rolled out because I was looking at it the other day to see about connecting our own page. The plan is with that is, and this sort of addresses a lot of the vanity URL issues probably, is it will allow you, once you connect your page, if I understood this correctly, you could just go into your Google search box, not on Plus even, and just type Plus, whatever the brand name is, and if that brand is connected to that, you'll find them right from that. So if we had our page connected, and you just went, into your Firefox Google bar and started typing Plus Magnet Media, one of the first hits would be it would come right up for our actual Google Plus page. So that's definitely a cool thing that is going to help people get found, I think.
For
Yeah,
sure.
the last thing I just wanted to say is that I sort of just when companies like Twitter and such started, they sort of had their own vision, but then through their kind of biggest users, they were able to kind of like see what they wanted from the service and kind of to help it evolve. And so I just kind of hope that with pages and things, when we have like especially like entertainment companies who I feel like probably have the biggest anyway, I think Google, like the brand pages, will help them the most with kind of the things that they can do, especially with the Hangouts feature. I just hope that as they kind of stumble across things that they think could improve or could be added in, much like Twitter did with the hashtags, which I believe were actually created by the users, that Google kind of adopts that and allows it to evolve into something that they didn't originally conceive of.
Right. I've seen some usage of hashtags already on Google Plus, and I guess it does work pretty similarly. I think people are still sort of sorting that out, but I think you're right. I think more and more we're going to see people find ways to get their content found like hashtags and sort of innovate with that. And as you said, I think if Google's smart, and I think they will be, they'll figure out how to build that in and add in new features and functionality based on what their users are already doing. I think that'd be the smart route.
Right, absolutely. I mean, even Ryan, if you think about the changes that we've seen just on, if you go into like your Gmail account over this past week, you and I have been talking about it a couple of different times. Mm-hmm. It gets a little annoying at first because they're like tinkering. It's like men at work kind of thing. Like while we're working on it, they're working on it as well. And I definitely, I believe strongly that these are very smart guys, and they are constantly trying to fine tune and find ways to integrate all of their suite of applications. Yeah. So it's really only a matter of time before we start lauding this thing as the best thing ever.
I know.
I mean, I'm not saying that we personally will feel that way, but I think that very soon we'll find that discernible benefit.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the hugest things that we didn't even mention is, I mean, the obvious benefit of Google Plus in general is that, I mean, I don't know the numbers on the user base, but I mean, do you know anyone that doesn't have a Google account or Gmail account? And it's all right there in the bar. I mean, so when you see a notification from a friend, or I'm not sure if they pop up for like a brand you're following, probably not. But the point is that it's integrated right in your bar. Oh, I've got a new message. You don't even have to. It's like it's all sort of in that same little walled garden, so to speak, where you're not having to jump over to another site. You're literally just living in Google's little space that they're owning. Taking over our little world right in our screen, and it's all integrated. It's all in right where you live already. Especially for us because we're on Google and we're using Gmail all day long because that's what we use for our work email. So everything is right already there, sort of in our dashboard. And that's certainly one of the hugest opportunities. Is they've basically got a captive audience. I mean, they didn't have to get people to hardly even set up an account. They already had an account. They just had to connect it. So there's a huge opportunity there. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Unless you have any other points, I think this was cool. This was interesting, and I think the plan is we're hoping we'll do a bunch more of these. But it was really cool to be able to, use the actual product that we're talking about to demo this and have a quick conversation about it.
Right. And honestly, as I guess my final point, unless I hear something else that makes me have another final point, is this isn't a feature that a brand can use on Facebook as of now. I mean, we've seen Facebook, pull a lot from, Twitter recently. I mean, the whole news feed is a Twitter, and all, a lot of these updates that they're doing feel very much like other social channels. But if a brand wanted to do this on Facebook at this moment in time, it's not able to at least connect, a couple of different end users and the brand itself. So I think the fact that we're having this discussion on Google Plus, a Google Plus Hangout, speaks volumes about its potential and I guess its effectiveness and it's I guess to something that Brandon said earlier, like it's a unique enough difference that makes someone say, you know what, I can see myself using this service for this reason.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, right now, like you're saying, it's not possible directly on a Facebook or a Twitter. What they're going to do, and I assume is already happening, is they're going to link. They're going to have to link over. They'll post the status update on Facebook, but it's going to link to the Hangout over on Google Plus and push people right over because that tool's just not there. So yeah, and
Right.
and that as with anything, that's going to drive innovation with the others because I mean, like you just said, as all these new features have come out, as soon as Google Plus came out and started adding things, just for users, Facebook started tweaking. So Facebook is going to have their own answer to Hangouts and their own answer. They're already starting to tweak the way their lists are based on circles. So they're all going to keep innovating. So I mean, there's no question. Regardless, more players in this field is good for the competition. So keep them all moving along.
You know what would have been cool is if I would have gotten notified that you guys were in a hangout, or if you could have invited me to the hangout. I wonder if that's possible.
I did actually. You didn't get it?
I didn't get it.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah,
Yeah, it's little.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, because you had asked me that in the very beginning, Ryan. It's
Mhm.
I guess it's sort of a I don't know whatever the refresh rate is on your browser, but on the up in the top right corner where it kind of has your name and such.
Yeah.
After you did that, and I did refresh it, then the little
Oh.
red one came up to say that I had a notification thing. So
But it didn't send you an email or anything though.
no,
That's
no.
interesting.
And it might
Okay.
just be a setting that I have to check, or that's
Right.
not on by default or something like that.
Yeah, I'll poke around in
Right,
that.
because I saw the plus one as well. Not the plus one, but the one in the notification box. I just mean like when I something similar to like a push notification. So if
Yeah.
I get a text message, I would like for the Hangout to work similarly.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't start incorporating something like that. But you're right. I mean, the way I did this is I just, I made a circle just for this conversation and put you guys in it, and then I just shared the Hangout with you. So it probably came up in your feed if you were sitting there looking at it, but it may have taken a refresh. And then I also clicked invite. But you're absolutely right. I mean, that would just be a no-brainer to add some push notification to it, whether it's an email or whether it's a pop-up on your phone or just a pop-up right on your screen, which I know is becoming
Right.
challenging because I don't know about you guys, but especially on the iPhone now with iOS 5 and new notifications center thing, I've got so many notifications I can barely keep up with them. But that's my own usage because I'm crazy and I want to see them all. Some people are just going to have certain ones on, but there's no question that would be a great feature, just to know that hey, my friends or even a brand that I wanted to know is talking with their people and doing a hangout. Oh, cool! I want to join that right now. So that would be a good one. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for doing this on the weekend. It'll be fun to do more of these.
Definitely.
All right.
Sure.
Have a good one. Thanks for doing it.
All right, you
Yeah.
too.
Talk soon.